Hello and welcome to the All the Pies YouTube channel. My name's Kev, that is Davy, and we're back after a little bit of a hiatus with lots and lots to catch up on. So, with time not on our side, with so much to go through, we'll get straight into it.
God, he scored so many goals.
All right.
All right, Davy, how are you doing?
I'm knackered.
You're not good. What's been going on?
Been running around like a blue horsefly.
Like
I haven't had
blue
my
horse.
tea yet. A note. Oh, aye. But I'll let you know quickly. Basically, I do the paintings, the Hinny the Pooh paintings and that
Oh yeah.
for the charities and whatever. Well, I raffled one off, and the lady that won it, our mum lives in Ashington. She lives down south, so I wasn't going to travel all the way down south and whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But our mum lives in Ashington. She's going for Christmas, so I had to dodge over to Ashington. Well, I said I would anyway, to give her the painting. And I've got another friend who I saw a photo of her son. She showed us a photo of her son, and I said, "Can you send us that?" She says, yeah. And I, like looking, thinking, why do you want the photo? And I says, do you mind if I do a painting of it? And she said, yeah, well, yeah, And so I did the painting, and it's the first chance I've had for to actually meet her and give her the painting. So basically, she's over the moon with it. I'm not going to mention names or anything, but she's over the moon with it. So it's made my day, and she's keeping it back for the Ben as an extra Christmas present. So I'm over the moon with that. So it was just something I saw the painting. I thought, oh, now the thing is I'm doing prints for the charities and that. So if people want prints of me, Hinny the Poohs, and they'll see that particular painting as well, then you can get prints. But I'll mention that.
We'll put a link in the description. We'll get a link in the description so you can.
I haven't got one yet, so I'll have to wait.
We'll not put a link in the description.
No.
We'll put a link in the comments later on.
Maybe it's in after Christmas or something.
Oh well, that's lovely, Davey. I've been doing nothing nowhere near as nice as that. I've been destroying Christmases rather than making them.
Oh, excellent!
Seems to be no. I've just been working, been dead busy. Yeah. But no, that's lovely. That Davey, you're due a bit of good karma on the back of that. I would say.
I don't believe in karma. I don't believe in.
Well, if you did believe in karma, then maybe we've got a little bit at the weekend, because before we get into the review of the Fulham game, it's been a fucking canny shit week for Newcastle pre-Fulham, wasn't it?
Oh,
I mean, it's been a while since we've been on, and we're not just avoiding the defeats, by the way. I know that sounds like we'll quite happily come on and talk about.
He was. Defeats. I'm pointing the wrong way. He was avoiding it. He's avoiding it.
Yeah. Anyway. So I mean, we had some.
Well, I saw you. I saw you at the Milan game. You came down to sit, but I missed the previous two games, the two home games that we bloody won. I missed because I wasn't well. And then I ended up getting the 2 bob bits, and I couldn't go yesterday. So I missed yesterday.
Yeah, the ballroom blitz.
Basically,
Brad Pitt's.
Chalfonts were in shreds, but we're not going too much into that.
But yeah, no, I mean, it was. I mean, just coming into this game, Davey, it was a case that we needed a bit of a lift because we had the Everton game, and I had a bad feeling about the Everton game. I don't think 3-0 really tells the full story of how that game went, but they look bloody knackered.
Well, you said 3-0, didn't you? But you said 3-0 the other way.
Yeah,
that's how much of a bad feeling you had
about it. Exactly. And then who was the second defeat? I can't even remember. My mind's went blank. I've already blocked it out so much.
I'm the same, man. I'm the same. It's ancient history now.
Yeah, and then but I think the one that was. I think the one that was the real dagger through the heart was probably the one that we probably played the best in, which was the Milan game. And there was a lot of hype going into the game. And I came up to you and I said to you, I said, look, there's a crackle in the air tonight. I think we're going to have a bit of a special night here tonight. And up until half time, it certainly felt that way. But
up until an hour, up until 65 minutes or so, really. And then it just all fell apart. But Well,
it did, and do you know what it is? And I came out of that thing hurting. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Which Newcastle United fan wasn't hurting, but not disappointed when I looked at the tournament as a whole. I thought to myself, you know, for a team that hasn't been there in 20 years, and I made a little appearance on Sky Sports at the end of last season when we qualified, and they put a little bit on where I was saying, well, you know, some fans are saying that we're not ready, and maybe we're not, but we're in for a hell of a journey. And I think that sums that up pretty well. Actually, maybe we weren't quite ready for the type of group that we were in, but we were in for a hell of a journey, and we did. And looking back on the Champions League, although it was a short stay, I don't regret anything. I don't regret we're getting in that group with all of those teams, because I think we'll come out of that competition a better team and a better equipped team for European competition after that. And we've had some fantastic nights within Europe. I had a great trip across to Germany. We had, of course, the amazing night against PSG. PSG still don't know how to beat Newcastle United.
Exactly.
Now, although it didn't end the way any of us wanted to, I can look back at that campaign with great fondness. Manchester United, on the other hand, if ours was a group of death, theirs was the group of life. I don't think that's a team who's meant to be seasoned in the Champions League. And when you make the comparison, the two were nowhere near. So, although it hurt, I did come into this game thinking to myself, do you know what it is? I'm not carrying any sort of hangover from that. And I'm expecting the players not to neither. So I think that brings one quite nicely to Saturday. But before we do get into Saturday's shenanigans, Davy, I do have a question for you.
Go on then.
Are you ready?
I think I am.
Are you sure you're ready? Are you fucking ready?
Okay, let's go.
You know what? I've been thinking about that lad and like trying to analyze it and thinking so much about him. And when was that taken? And where is he now? And what's he doing? And all these things and that. And
well, you haven't researched it enough, Davey, because the answers are out there. Because when we first started doing it, I had the same journey that you're on now, and I really
didn't research it. I've just been thinking about it.
I did. He's a social media star now. He's an influencer, no less. An influencer, yes. And he's a lot older, but I don't want to spoil the beauty of what that little video it is itself. If anybody's that interested, go research it. You might be a little bit surprised about his story.
Good.
But yeah, as I mentioned, after a really tough week of football, it came back to another 3 p.m. kickoff. It's in James's Park. And coming into it, there was quite a few questions in terms of, well, how the form's going to turn around. I think everybody saw it as an opportunity for the form to turn around, but also around about squad involvement for players as well. And there'd been whispers that some players might have picked up knocks. There was, I think, a bit of a Dubravka red herring had been thrown into the
Share
mix.
one as well.
And the Fabian Share one. But there was whispers of had other players been training, and Eddie Howe, true to form, kept his cards to his chest.
Yeah.
What were your thoughts around the team before the game kicked off? What were your thoughts of what the team might have been?
I mean, I was, first of all, disappointed that I wasn't able to go. But saying that, I know for a fact, with me not being there, that we were going to win and it was going to be a great game and something amazing was going to happen, because it always flaming does when I miss the game. So, but you know what it is? I try not to look at the news, the social media news surrounding Newcastle in terms of the team and who may or may not be playing and what's going on and who's doing this and who's doing that and whatever. And I just think, even the journalists, a lot of them are in the same level of being in the know as me and you are. Nobody has a clue, because exactly what you just said, Eddie Howe doesn't give anything away. And why should he? Why would he? You know, the only thing that they can see is if they're allowed into training, or if they've got somebody with a spy camera taking photos of training and seeing who's there and who's going in and who's coming out and all this kind of stuff. But I actually made the mistake of looking, and I saw the things about Fabian Schär, and I thought, oh man. And I saw Dubravka, and I thought, I'm not too concerned if Dubravka's got a knock or something, because hopefully it's not long term. And I just thought Karius is a really top keeper, and I thought he'd probably do well. And then there was the whole hoo-ha about Sven Botman putting a thing on Instagram. And I thought, but loads of players put stuff on. Murphy puts things on all the time. It doesn't mean he's going to be playing. But it turned out that he was mentioned in the squad. So when he was actually the first one that I looked for. I didn't look when the team was announced. I didn't look at the team first. I looked at the squad to see if he was in the squad. And he was there, and I thought, brilliant, because that means he's well on the way back,
Just before you go on, and you mentioned Murphy, it's a little bit off the record, but have you seen that his brother, who plays for Oxford United, went out on his team Christmas night out in the all in fancy dress, and he went as Jacob Murphy. He had a Newcastle top on and a sling and everything.
I didn't see that. That's brilliant.
Anybody watching, go Google it now. Have a little look at it. It's absolutely brilliant. He went with Jacob Murphy, and he's got the sling. He's sitting in a taxi like that. Fantastic stuff. But sorry for interrupting, Dave. I thought I'd get that in there.
No, that's brilliant. Brilliant. I'll have to have a look for that. But yeah, I obviously we knew Trippier was going to be missing.
Suspension.
Which, to be honest, I think it turned out a good one for him to miss, because it gives him a bit of a rest. And it felt weird, the team without him, it felt strange, him not playing. But you kind of knew that it was going to be Livramento really ahead of what do you call him? His flimming name's gone out my head. No, the Swedish guy, Kraft, yeah. It was one of the two, and it was always going to be Livramento, but then it was going to be either Dan Burn and how he felt after coming on the other night, or Hall. So Dan Burn's there, and then it was whether he was going to play Miley or stick with Longstaff, who obviously came on at the end of the other game. And I was disappointed in the way that Miley was dropped, where I kind of thought he's not really being dropped. It's kind of he's being rested, because he's done so well. And I mean, he wasn't even in some of the squads when everybody was fit. So for to come through that, and then he's basically stepped up to the plate, and he's been brilliant the last few games. And then
while we're on that, I think
happened,
we'll probably get a bit more in depth of how we played in this match, but on that sort of subject, I think that's probably been one of the few silver linings from this injury crisis that we've had, because I honestly don't think he would have gotten the opportunities that he's had this season. So in a way, the stars have aligned for him personally in his career, because of all of these injuries that have came in. He's been thrown in, and for him, it's brought him on so much. It's probably brought him on a year or two in his career to where he sort of should be. So although it's been shit having all of these players out, that has been the one sort of star that shone out and went, actually, do you know what it is? Out of all of this, we're getting a new first team player that probably wouldn't have had the games that he would have had without this.
Well, he came on, as you know, he came on against Chelsea last season, and he just looked brilliant. And then he played in the pre-season games, and again, he looked one of the best players out of the squad in the pre-season games. But you cannot read too much into that. I think a lot of players hold back a little bit, and it's more about fitness and things like that. And anyway, Eddie Howe basically said that he didn't want him to go on loan because he didn't want him subjected to being amongst another squad and the way that they do things, and lots of things that could be negatives for him. And he said he wanted to keep him close at hand.
And he wanted him to be Eddie Howe, didn't he? He wanted him to be Eddie Howe. That's what he wanted.
But the point is, I thought at the time, I bet he's basically keeping him because there might come a time when he needs him. And and it happened.
It has happened.
And I thought, I hope he doesn't need him, in that sense, but it actually happened, and he, as I say, he's been fantastic. But
well, let's get into the actual game itself. So, looking at the team, I think they were the two sort of standouts. The inclusion of Dan Burn and Sean Longstaff. And when I looked at the team, I thought, actually, do you know what it is? That isn't far off our first team. That is looking at a strong team, and I didn't feel this was going to be a game where tiredness was really going to affect. Well, although it was another quick successive game, no disrespect to Fulham, I felt it was a game that even if we did have a little bit in our legs, we'd be able to manage this game and pull 3 points off. Having said that, up until the big decision that sort of changed it all, we did have a few chances. Well, I say chances, some nice build up, but they were also had a bit of a foothold in the game as well. And I wouldn't have said it was 50-50 up until the first major talking incident, which we'll get into. But I'd say it was about 60-40. Fulham were making a good account of themselves, and we seemed to find it difficult to break down them when they were in a defensive position. Maybe it's a little bit slow on the build up. It could have been a problem. But what did you make of the sort of the early encounters?
Well, the first thing I just want to mention as well, because I'd forgotten about the lineup. Of course, Isak was missing from the squad, and it was announced that he's still feeling his groin problem. And I thought, of course he is. You can tell that he is, because he hasn't been the same player since he's come back. And I think he's had to be rushed back because of all the other injuries. And when we've only got the two strikers, it's just inevitable. So he's a big miss, but then it's good to have Wilson back, and Wilson's looking fit. He's looking, he's looking pretty trim and quick. But immediately, right from the kickoff, they kicked off, and the ball went back, and within seconds, Miggy was pressing. He ran an arc right across.
That's right.
And then eventually he actually got the ball straight away off one of their players and forced it. It ended up, it was a throw in, and the referee, should have given something to us, I think. But anyway, and then within the same minute, he did exactly the same thing again. Now, whatever you say about the lad, and he actually I saw him use his right foot twice as well during the game. But whatever you say about him, you can't fault him for effort. Now, people are saying, oh, he's not, like, we need rid of him and all that kind of stuff. On his day, Miggy's as good as anybody else on his day, and his work rate is unbelievable. Now, I kind of think we used to say, all we ask players is for to give 100%. That's all we ask. But then we've got players. He always does. And, and I think if you go by the arguments that people are saying, I know I've kind of diverted a little bit here, but then you could argue that every single player in that squad will eventually be replaced for somebody better, including Bruno. You could argue all of that, but when this started out like that, I thought, right, yeah, we're at home. They want to make a good account of themselves after what happened the other night. They don't want a hangover from it. And as you say, Fulham, I didn't think they got a foothold as such. They had a couple of attacks that, they looked all right, but they didn't look too dangerous. And Jimenez did an overhead kick. It was quite a weak overhead kick from the edge of the 18-yard box. And I thought, what a waste. He could have brought that down and looked for to bring somebody else in, or brought it down, turned the defender and had a shot, and this, that, and the other. And he's thinking, oh, you know what? I'm gonna do an overhead kick from 20 yards, and I'm gonna look great. Well, you didn't, mate. It was weak.
Well, I hear what you're saying, but at the same time as well, you've got to be in it to win it. You know what I mean? If that flies in the top corner, we're having a very different conversation, aren't we?
Exactly.
I think Jimenez is that type of player. He has got to a certain amount of flair about him now. Well, the days when he was in Wolves before he got his injury, he did look like he was going to be an absolute world beater to me. I thought this guy looks like he's going to be a top striker. Had his injury, wasn't really the same after that. And what was it, like 4 million or some 4 million? I think they paid for him, which I never would have believed. Maybe 3-4 seasons ago, I would have thought he'll never be going for 4 million. And for a striker, he runs so hot and cold, don't there's times for Fulham where you think to yourself, oh, he could turn around and be a really good striker for them, and then he'll have a run of like 3 or 4 games where he's just really quiet and he doesn't really show any kind of strength, whether it be physical strength or any killer instinct, and then he'll have a run of 2 or 3 games. He's really inconsistent. Jimenez. I think it's a shame because I think there genuinely is a really good player in there somewhere with Jimenez.
Oh, I think he definitely is. Like on his day, but he's one of these players you say on the day, and that means that he's not consistent. But then you had the incident where the ball came towards him, and he looked, and he saw that Lascelles was there. He backed into Lascelles. He took 2 steps back and he tried to back into Lascelles. And it looked to me like immediately he was looking for a foul, right? And Lascelles just seemed to brush him off. And then he saw it from a different angle. And Lascelles has kind of come across. And he has brushed him off.
It was a little bit naughty. I've seen naughty.
Oh, yeah, he's basically brushed him off, but he's done it because he's backing into him. So he's come around him and he's gone like that, and he's saying, you're not getting a foul out of this, mate, and I'm just brushing you off, that's it. And he did, I think he did well. The only thing is when he did that, his elbow went into the side of Jimenez's face.
Aye.
And I think he made a lot more of it than...
I don't think there was any malice there. I really don't think there was any malice there. It was like a little bit naughty, wasn't it? You know what I mean? Maybe he was like a little bit too,
I don't think he
could have just been a little bit more aware of where his arm was going, possibly. But by no means do I think he's trying to do him with an elbow. No,
but he's backing into him at the same time, so he's coming that way as Lascelles is coming forward. So he's gone for to kind of do that with his arm.
Palm him off, isn't it?
That's what exactly. And then he's gone into it as well, and he was looking for it, but he ended up with nothing out of it, and he might have a little bit of a sore jaw. And I said to Sarah, I mean, we were at home watching it. I got it on a dodgy stream, and
perfectly legal one, of course.
Oh yes. Nothing illegal. But I said to Sarah straight away, I said, you watch him. He'll end up trying to get his revenge. He's that type of player that hasn't got that switch in his head. And I said, he'll try and get his revenge. You just watch and see what he does.
Well, before we go on to that incident, there was another incident. I think I've got the order of play here, right? There was another incident just before that, which nearly brought a tear to my eye, because Fabian Shaw, he was picking the ball up and he had the room to run, and he was running, and it looked like, oh, actually, we've got a good chance of an attack here. And whenever you see a player pull up like that, it's one thing and it's one thing only. Now, I don't think there's any news on exactly what the injury is or how long it is, but you only need to look at the incident to see that's his hamstring's gone.
Well, this is the thing, because I said straight away to Sarah, his arse is gone. And she said, what do you mean? And I says, it's his glute.
His glute.
He was holding the bottom part of his backside rather than his hamstring itself.
Right.
Because I've done both, and you can see when people do it anyway. And it was either that he had, really bad hemorrhoids, but, or his glute's gone. And it's actually been mentioned that it's his glute, and it might not be as bad as it initially was thought, and it might not be very long.
Well, so I hope you're right, because
it's still all linked. It's still part of the same thing, but it's like it's a very slightly different medical. It's his arse basically, but it's a bit. It's linked to his hamstring. So
yeah, well,
it might not be as bad.
Hamstring, because when you see somebody pull up like that, you first
watch it again. Watch it again, and you'll see touches. It's basically the bottom part of his backside.
And in the stand, I was thinking to myself, God, where's our luck, man? You know, we're just
Oh
starting.
no, well, I was the
You get
same,
one of your
man.
central defenders back in Sven Botman, and then the other one goes out, and I'm thinking to myself, it's 1 in 1 out here. It's 1 in 1 out.
I know.
So hopefully, you're right. A speedy recovery for Fabian Schär, and we can get the pairing of Schär and Botman back alongside each other again, because what a formidable pairing that's going to be. Take into the new year. But
I mean, just jumping ahead as well, we lost Joelinton.
We did, yeah. And that's what I was going to say. 1 in 1 out. You know, you get Sean Longstaff back, and then Joelinton. I hit straight away. He looked at the bench and he went like that, and I thought, well, what's
he was going like that? Is like he felt something snap.
Oh God!
He was doing the motion as if something snapped, and I thought, oh, that doesn't sound good. Like, but he jogged off, which was strange.
You do see that quite often, though. You know, I've seen players like walk off and jog off, and you think that doesn't look too bad. And the next thing you know, they're out for months. So hopefully, with both of those players, it isn't anything snapped or teared or anything like that. And it's something that can be, you know, moved along pretty quickly, because we're just starting to get 1 or 2 players back, and you're starting to think to yourself, oh, we might have some breathing room. So the last thing we need is more first team players going out.
I know.
But leading on to the next incident, so the incident we're going to move on to, the Raul Jimenez arse to the face on Sean Longstaff. One, how did he get his arse up that high, right? Because that is genuinely impressive. Like, I've seen basketballers that don't get that kind of airtime. But when I saw it happen in real time, you know it's a bad one when the entire stadium goes, oh, and there's a certain noise the crowd makes. It's not like a hey, it's like a oh, and it looked bad. You just saw the clatter on there. And I initially thought to myself, oh, he could be in trouble here. And when he pulled the yellow card out, I thought to myself, oh, it seemed to me like a little bit more than a yellow card. You know, we'll talk about the orange card. We'll talk about the orange card. I thought to myself, this could go either way. This could be a yellow card, or it could be a red card. Now, when it went to VAR and they were taking a long time, I went, yeah, they're going to get him to look at this, because this is, to me, seeing it in real time, it looked like a pretty bad and reckless impact. There didn't seem to be any control over the way he leapt or anything like that. It just seemed to be pretty bad. What was your take on it? Because you probably would have been able to see the replays before we could in the stadium.
Yeah. Well, I saw it, obviously, with the angle. It was like him kind of straight on, you know, and I just couldn't believe it, because, like I said, I've mentioned to Sora, he's going to do something daft, but I didn't think he would be this daft. And it was like he'd been watching clips of Monkey or something, you know, and he was doing a flaming a karate kick, you know, with all that kind of stuff, you know.
It was bizarre. I've never seen.
That's why he got right up, because he ran at it and he leapt in the air, and initially he had his leg out to do a proper karate kick. The ball was miles away. He had no intention. I don't know what was going through his head, but he's just lost it. He's completely lost it. And I think as he's in midair, when you watch it in slow motion, it's weird, because you can see his face actually change. And he's like, oh shit. He realizes, and he pulls his foot away, he pulls his leg away, and he tries to turn his body so it's not as bad. But because he's got the momentum, he's already jumped. He can't stop the jump.
And that's why it's deemed as reckless.
Ends up, well, a mate messaged me later on after the match, and he says, I'm out. And he says there's about 15, 16 who were, and he says there's 4 Newcastle fans with her as well. And he says, everybody to a man, we've just seen it. And every single one says that's never a red card. And I messaged him back and I said, right, okay. I says, he's basically done a karate kick. He's pulled out midair, but the momentum has took him into him. So his hip and his backside is basically whacked Longstaff in the face. He's clattered right into him. He's completely out of control, and he's knocked him for 6. So why is that not a red card? And he messaged us back a minute later, and he says, I've just told everybody what you've said, and they all agree it's a red card.
Well,
and it's about how you interpret it, really. But when you look at it initially, and you got the yellow card out, and I thought this is going to get overturned because it's never a yellow card. He's completely out of control.
He is out of control. Now, you take away the fact that it was his buttocks, which makes it like a little bit like a new one to see. Now, let's say he did exactly the same move, but it was his knee or his foot or his elbow or, you know, or his or any other part of the body jumping across like that, with exceptions maybe of the
even
head.
You imagine the pace. You imagine the pace he's going at with that jump, and if his hip bone whacks Longstaff in the full in the nose, that's gonna hurt, and it knocked him over.
Is. And it's reckless. Like, you know, the fact that it's his arse that goes in his face shouldn't make any difference whatsoever. And he knows himself really, Jimenez, because there's a great shot that you see when you watch the highlights of where the referee's looking at it, and he took a while to look at it on the TV. And for a second, I did think, oh, is he going to stick by his decision? But you can see Jimenez is kind of like looking into the camera like that.
His head goes on,
and then he said, and so I think he knew at that stage he was like, I'm gonna get sent off. Yeah.
Well, his own players turned away, happy, didn't they? His own players turned away, going like, "Oh, you idiot!" When they could see it.
You're completely fucked. And
well, this is the thing that annoys me, because he went off the pitch, and he's like. He knows he's like I'm an idiot. Why have I done that? And that's basically what he's saying to himself, and he's shaking his head. It's nobody else's fault other than his own. His manager, Silva, doesn't even look at him. He's looking away. He's going out, and he doesn't even look at him. And that was mentioned on the thing that we were listening to, and albeit in French, but. It was mentioned, you know,
your perfectly legal French stream.
And but that's basically what he did. But then for him to come out and blame the referee later on, and go on about coming to Newcastle and this, that, and the other, and refs can't handle it. It's utter crap.
It's a manager tactic. It's a manager tactic to take the flack off the players and put it onto you. Mikel Arteta did exactly the same thing up here. He called out the referee, so it takes the attention off his players and puts it onto him. Yeah. And if anything, he's probably done the right thing in doing that, because otherwise it would have all been Raul Jimenez has cost Fulham the game. And he probably did. I mean, you know, I think we probably would have went on to win that game in anyways, but I guess we'll never ever know. It certainly is always a lot easier when you're playing against 10 men, and when a red card comes early, most of the time you think to yourself, oh well, that's it, that's game over. Now we know it's not always that way. Just look at Liverpool when Virgil van Dijk got sent off, and I was starting to see a little bit of a pattern going on for when we play teams that have got 10 men, because I'm not going to say that they went for the low block the entire time, because during the second half they did get a couple of times where they broke away, and if it wasn't for poor finishing,
they did in the first as well.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, so is when they went off, there was a couple of chances that they had, and to be fair to Dubravka, the shots that he did face made him look pretty easy. He collected them in, not even pulling them away. But it was then a case of like, when are we going to break them down? Are we going to break them down? It felt very different to that Liverpool game as the game went on. And I'm going to move things on a little bit quicker. I do want to talk about one thing that I did notice, because I did have me Davy Craig cap on, and I was trying to watch the likes of positioning in where everybody was, and I noticed there was a spell for about 10 minutes. I don't know the way you noticed this, where he switched Miggy and
I was going to mention over. It. Yeah.
He switched them over, and I didn't know whether it was because he felt that Miggy wasn't getting all the joy that he wanted on the right hand side, and Gordon might have been a little bit more of a danger. But then after about 10 minutes, he switched them back again.
Yeah.
And what I really liked about that was, hang on a second, he's trying different things. He's not just repeatedly doing the same thing over and over. He's not letting himself run out of ideas. He's trying to switch things up. And ironically, it was when Gordon moved back to the left-hand side that we had the best chance of the first half, where Gordon brought it down and almost got the ball lost in amongst his legs, managed to get it away, and a cross shot came off the crossbar. Unfortunately, didn't drop to one of our players, but probably best chance of the first half? Would you say?
Yeah, I mean, I think what he was doing was because I obviously I speak to the wife, like we can tell her about all the tactics while it's going on, and she's But anyway, I said we are very, very flat, and it looked very predictable, and it looked as if he swapped them over purely because the best way to attack against a team that is playing those defensive lines is to get behind them, get to the byline, and get the balls in from those areas. Now, there were two things that happened. He swapped them over, right? And as you say, that's basically what they were trying to do, but they were kind of wise to it. So there was a moment where they went over, there was another lull, and they went back over, and somebody spoke to Eddie Howe, and they actually they swapped back over again. But by then, that was kind of the moment where Kraft started venturing further and further forward. Now the point is Miggy and Gordon, when they attack, they both like to come inside, right? But then it's very predictable at times when we do that all of the time. Now, when we've got Trippier playing, he does that overlap, and Livramento's been doing the same kind of thing, right? So, of course, Dan Burn had to move inside, and Hall came on as well. But the point was, Livramento went the other side, didn't he, initially? And then that was it. Livramento went the other side. Hall went inside. Kraft went on the other right hand side. The fact that Kraft was starting to get further forward, it meant that there was more balls coming from the byline area and played in by a right-footed player, where they're coming whipped in like that. Some of them were floated, and that the one that ended up going to Gordon was a floated ball, and I can't even remember who put it over. And Miggy even put one over with his right foot at one point. But that was the thing that they started doing, was getting him on the overlap, and that made it really difficult for Fulham, because they then had to drag a player out, and it was leaving space in behind. So they were then having to have a player coming to fill that gap, which then made more space for our midfielders to get forward as well into those gaps. And I think they utilised that more come the second half. He obviously had a word with them, and I think they utilised that tactic more. And Livramento was doing the same, getting down the other side. And they were just making it difficult for them, because if you've got the ball coming to your wingers and they come inside every time, then all they have to do is hold their lines and then get somebody from the who's in the four ahead to kind of come and meet them. And then you've got one or the other, either the fullback who comes out first and then goes back in, and then one of the central defenders kind of shows a little bit but doesn't want to lose his space, because you don't want people running in behind. And that's what they did, and they did it really well first half. Mm-hmm. But that little extra, I think he must have said to them, we need to get in behind. And the way to do it is to play it in so they think Gordon and Miggy are going to come inside, but then it goes back out.
Yeah.
To the overlapping fullbacks. And that's really difficult to defend against, because you're pulled left, right, and centre. And to me, that was basically, they ended up coming narrow, but it was leaving more space for people coming out. And then the goal itself was kind of down to, they were dragged all over, and they were very narrow. But then Bruno, I thought Bruno,
it was a lovely bit of work, wasn't it, by Bruno? Because,
yeah.
And you know what it is? I want to say something before we go into this goal, because there's something that's starting to annoy us that's happening at St. James's Park, and I know it kind of splits the crowd a bit. So when we're coming up against teams that are defending like this, and we're playing it in and around the box, and we're looking for the opportunity to try and slip that ball in, I'm hearing a lot of people going, just shoot, man, just shoot. And you've got players like, they might have like 3 defenders, like smack bang in front of them, right?
Yeah.
And it happened against Milan, right? And Lascelles picked the ball up just inside of his own half, right? And so half the ground went, shoot. I was like, it's your centre back on the halfway line. Why do you want him to shoot and give up possession when we're in a dangerous position? And I don't know. It really gets on me nerves when, you know, some of the ground just keeps shouting, shoot, just shoot, man, just shoot. Well, why just shoot if it's clearly going to get blocked or there's not a shooting chance? Or if it's better to try and build it up and move it across. Well, they're trying to walk it into the goal. No, they're not trying to walk it into the goal. They're looking for a space to get a killer ball through.
Exactly.
And fair enough, sometimes there mightn't be that killer ball on, or sometimes it mightn't be executed in the correct way. Yes, talk about that. But don't just shoot for the sake of shooting. Because if I'm Fulham and I'm playing a low block, let you have shots from 25, 30 yards all day long. That's what we want. We want you to be shooting at times where you can't shoot. However, on this opportunity, and I've noticed that occasionally some players will listen and just fire a shot off. 9 times out of 10, it gets blocked or it goes over the bar. But Bruno didn't do this time. He drove into the heart, and we were a little bit lucky because he almost knocked it a little bit too far. It wasn't a ball, I wouldn't necessarily say through to Lewis Miley. It kind of pinballed a little bit.
Yeah.
And then it came out to Lewis Miley. But how buzzing was that for him to get his first goal, because he kept such a cool head, took a touch across the keeper. It was like a finish of somebody who's done that a lot of times in the Premier League, and he hasn't done that a lot of times in the Premier League, but he will do that a lot of times in the Premier League, because he is a fantastic player, and what a player we've got on our hands. Couldn't be happier for Lewis Miley getting his first goal at the Gallagher.
I know. It was bizarre because I was looking at Bruno, and like you say, there'd been a couple of shots in the first half, and a lot of the players, managers don't like players doing that because it gives the ball away most of the time, right? And they don't like it. There's the odd time that, you know, they do, especially when they score. But
if Fabian Shaw puts one in the top corner, and at the same time as well with that, if you're winning 2-3-0, I can live with it if somebody does it.
I just think the way that Miley did it, it was because I'm left-footed, right? And he did what I used to always try and do when you're basically going to shoot. And you had an angle like that with the goalkeeper. He could have done a couple of things. He could have took a touch and tried to like place it, or that's like panicking a little bit. A lot of people would have done that. He basically come at it, and he dropped. If you watch, he just very slightly drops his shoulder, right? Just as he's about to hit it. And that immediately sends the goalkeeper one way. And as he's dropping his shoulder that way, he didn't lose his position or anything. His shape of his body's perfect. And he just follows the ball through, and he cushions the ball in. He doesn't have to hit it hard. He just places it. But because he's dropped his shoulder very slightly, all it does is it puts the goalkeeper in a position where he puts his weight on his other foot. And then it's, by the time the ball's kicked, because the goalkeeper's weight is going that way, he doesn't even have to be diving that way. It's just he shuffles his weight, and it's a real like nuance, right? That's all you need to do. You don't. It's like it is literally send him the wrong way, but he doesn't have to dive the other way. It's just putting his weight on the other side, and then he knows he just has to place it into that gap, and the goalkeeper hasn't got a chance, because if his weight's there, he's got to change the whole shape of his body for to then get across, and it would have to have been a world class save for to do that and change his weight and get over. And that was the moment. It was that brief, that's the genius of it. It's not the finish. the finish looks easy. He makes it look easy, right? He hits it with his instep and he places it in. The genius part is the moment, that brief little moment where all he does is he just goes like that.
Yeah, body
And
language.
the keeper looks and it sends them. And I scored so many goals doing that. And he's a top player. I was, nowhere near. But it was just brilliant to watch. And there's something about left footers. I mean, I'm saying that I'm a left footer. Obviously, I'm no good anymore because I can't even bloody stand anymore. But there's just something about the way that left footers seem to caress the ball differently. And he's got it in abundance. He's just a fantastic player, but his touch is brilliant. I could go on and on and on. The strange thing was
we need to do a podcast about just Lewis Miley.
But he's just got his first Premier League goal, and it opened the door to a win for the Toon, and he couldn't go out and celebrate and have a pint because he's not old enough. It's mad, isn't it?
I bet he had a cheeky one. Well, no, and he become the youngest ever Newcastle United Premier League goal scorer, so good on him. We're going to move on a little bit quicker now because I do want to have a little bit of chat about Chelsea, but we've got to talk about the other two goals. Now, the second goal, it came very quickly afterwards, and I had been saying in the stands, I said, look, all we need is one, and the floodgates are probably going to open then it becomes a little bit easier once you get in that first one.
Because they're looking for a goal, aren't they? Yeah, they're
exactly.
Behind.
Exactly. And it looked as though it was going to be a penalty on Wilson. And Wilson, who had a decent game, by the way, he was a bit of a thorn in the side. Without getting on the score sheet, he did he did make himself a bit of a pest and got himself in amongst it. And
that's
I thought he had
job,
a decent game.
He did really well.
But he got bowled over, and everybody's shouting penalty. Everybody apart from Miggy Almiron, who was just following the ball up. Was never going to miss, had an empty net there, slotted it home, and then it was game over from then, wasn't it, Davy?
Was it Diop, the centre half?
I'm not sure.
I'm sure it was Diop. I might be wrong.
We pushed him over.
I thought he had a really good game. To be fair, he played really well, and the point is, Wilson was battling with him. Now, I missed the goal because I was watching it on the screen and I was looking at whether he was going to give a penalty. And then the ball comes loose and Sarah's celebrating the goal and I'm looking at what? And the ball's in the back of the net. I'm looking at the penalty incident thinking this has got to be a penalty. I think
you and 52,000 other people, Davy, because I was up there going, that's a penalty. Oi, we're scoring. And there was a moment there where I feel like the players were almost pleading to the referee to give a penalty. That was a penalty, that mate. That was a penalty. Now the ball's gone in. It was a penalty.
I thought it was very close to him being offside as well, but obviously he wasn't.
Well, he wasn't. It didn't actually show the lines on there. I'm thinking, are they saying that? I don't know.
It was close.
That could open up a can of worms, but it was close. The goal stood. And for the third goal, I know we're rushing through them a little bit here, but do you know what it is? I was probably most pleased with the third goal because I just love it when you get powerhouses. Now, Shearer used to do a bit of this, so Bruno Guimaraes has just played a magical ball to the back post with the outside of his boot. I mean, there's just not many players in the world can do those little things. And Dan Burns went, thank you very much. And it probably wasn't the best header in the world in terms of the placement because he has hit it straight at the keeper. But it was the second part that I really love because players like Alan Shearer would say, right, okay, not only is the ball going in, I'm going into the goal. The goalkeeper's coming into the goal. That ball is getting in that net, and we're all going in together. He literally just surged it through, and you could feel the Gallagher end sucking it in. And I love seeing powerhouses do that. And he scored a few goals this season where he's just absolutely shown that defenders can't manage his power. There was the goal against Sheffield United where he got round and got a lovely header away. Obviously, the goal against Paris Saint-Germain, where he just took the defender in with him. And this was another one where it came back to him. And it's a striker thing to do, really. Strikers normally do this, where if something comes to them and they're not sure whether it's going to go in, they'll just move into the goal with it. And I was just dead pleased with it. I couldn't have been happier. Dan Burns scoring on his return. What more can you ask for?
I'm going to say one thing about it, and you might not get it. A lot of younger people won't get it, but a lot of the older people and ones who look at the history of football will get it. It was Stanley Mortensen-esque.
Yep, you're right, Davy. Didn't get it. Didn't get it.
Stanley Mortensen only fell out to score a hat-trick in the FA Cup final.
All right, there you go. I'm getting that Googled when we finish, yeah.
And the FA Cup final wasn't even named after him. He's the only player to score, and it's not called the Mortensen final. It's called the Stanley. What do you call it? The winger. I'm forgetting his name, man. Bloody hell, man! I'm going to see Neil. Anyway, Stan Mortensen. He's from South Shields. So anyway, Stanley Mortensen, and he's mentioned in the Half Man, Half Biscuit song as well.
There you go. All of that went right over the top of my head.
But that's
I've got a proper reverse mohawk. How much that went right over my head there, like.
But it was just brilliant. It was just brilliant, and it was just like getting back to winning ways. It was just perfect.
And that's exactly what we needed. We needed 3 points. We needed to get back to winning ways, because now all the fans, all the players, and anyhow have to return with attention to a completely different competition, which a lot of we just haven't thought about for a long time. We've had Champions League, we've had Premier League, but you forget that, hang on a second, we're in the quarter final of a cup. That's exactly what we're going to be turning our attention to for a few minutes now, and where we'll be on Tuesday night at 7 o'clock, where we go to Stamford Bridge and we play a very unpredictable Chelsea team. I think it's fair to say that they always seem to me like they've turned a corner, and then they just shoot themselves in the foot. So it's a really difficult one to try and predict. However, we've been here now before. We've been in quarterfinals before. We've beaten Man City in this competition already. We've beaten Manchester United in this competition already, and that was away from home. And I think we can beat Chelsea at Stamford Bridge, and I think we're going to go in all guns blazing on this one. What's your initial thoughts on the game that's coming up?
The difference in this with the Man City Man United games is that both teams in the past played a number of squad players. We were kind of half forced into it because of the injuries that we had, but this being a quarter final, I think Chelsea's season could rest on this game. You know, it really could.
I mean, it could. It does. It does, because they're not getting in the top 4.
So I think they're going to play a full. They're going to play a full squad. They're going to play like a full team. But I think we probably will as well. There might be a couple of changes, but like so, Richie might get a game.
You think?
I don't know.
Think so.
He might do. I don't know. We don't know what's going on behind the scenes with players with knocks, and we have played a lot of games recently. I think the positivity coming from that win is going to boost us in those terms. Chelsea beat Sheffield United, which they should be beating Sheffield United at home. Mm-hmm. So, but they've had a win as well. But the thing that I hope that we do is, with it being a cup game, I hope that we don't end up playing it the same way that we've played the Premier League away games, because I've got a little theory. I'm not going to go on at depth, but we seem to, when teams attack us away from home, we go immediately into a 4-5-1. And they're very rigid lines. They're very, there's like 10 yards. You can look, there's 10 yards between them. They don't move. They literally don't move. Now, Spurs and Everton, Kulusevski and Decore and other players played in between those lines. And what we need to do, this is my theory on it, right? And I'm a little bit disappointed that we haven't done this in away games. I think we need to slightly tweak that formation and play like when we're defending, play like a 4-1-4-1 or a 4-2-3-1, where you've got those condensed lines. There's not big gaps in between, because that's how Chelsea will be looking at how we'll be playing, and I think they'll try and utilize that against us. But I'm hoping, with it being a cup game, regardless of it being away, that we'll treat it as if it's a home game and we'll go for it. And that's when we go for it, the 4-3-3 works, because we go, we press, we do everything that we do. When we play away from home, we don't play in the same way, and then we end up defending, and that to me is how teams have got results against us. But this time round, the cup game, especially with being out of Europe now,
that's exactly what I was going to say, Davey. I honestly think he's going to look at this and say, "Look,
let's get back to Wembley."
Aye, exactly. The fans have had a bit of a disappointing week. You know, we went out of Europe completely. We need to get that buzz around the place, and I think it'll be different. I don't think, given the fact that we've had these European games, I don't think that the cup will be as much of a distraction this season as it was last season, when they were kind of half concentrating on these semi-finals and finals. That wouldn't be the case, and I think he wants to go out there and beat that game, and I don't think he will rotate many players. Now, they're not exactly doing great on injuries themselves. I'm going to go through some of them, and I'm going to have to really make sure I've got my teeth in for some of them, because the last three really all sound alike. So
I'll tell you the reason why I mentioned Richie was because I heard that Gordon had a hamstring problem before the game the other day, and he was touch and go whether he was going to play him, and he brought him off as a precaution, really. And I thought he probably could have brought him off a bit earlier if that was true. So that's why I'm thinking it's possible that he might not start he might start him, but I don't know. So that's
I think
why
if that was the case, I think you would probably move Livramento up on the right hand side and play Kieran Trippier at right back and
possibly,
Dan
and then
Burn at left back.
Yeah.
And so I think that would probably be the more. So I do want to touch on their
injuries,
because I've got a few. They've got Wesley Fofana, Reece James, Robert Sanchez, Ben Chilwell, Romeo Lavia, and Mark Cucurella. He's
that
out
one
as
again.
well. Romeo Lavia, Mark Cucurella, Charlie Chukwemeka, Leslie Chukwu, Trevor Chalobah, and Chukwuemeka Madueke. Yes, I got it right. So yeah, they've got quite a few players out themselves. So in terms of their squad rotation, you're probably right. They're probably going to play a pretty strong team, but I think they probably have to as well. They haven't had any midweek games to worry about, so this is going to be one that's coming directly after a 2-0 win over Sheffield United, where although they were the better team in that particular game, they weren't brutal and they weren't clinical. And when they come up against a team like us, I just don't think they're going to have what's needed to get over the line, because I think if we do play that strong team with the added inspiration of being knocked out of a cup already, they don't want to be knocked out of 2 cups in the same week. Absolutely, will they not want that?
They've got a lot. The thing about Chelsea is they've got a lot of players who are very quick, and that's the danger point to them. It's like their finishing is basically seriously letting them down, and they're not getting into the final, the really good areas. And when they do, they just seem to choke. But
well, go on, and you're about to give a prediction there, and that's exactly what we're moving on to. What's your prediction? You've got to make one. How are you?
I think 2-1 to us, and I think they'll come out quick. But I think we'll probably get a goal on the break, and then they make another one, and then we'll score again or something. I think 2-1 to us. I hope it doesn't get into penalties.
Well, I think it's going to be 2-0. I'm going Wilson and Longstaff.
Yeah,
I think it's going to be 2-0. And I hope I'm wrong. I don't think it's going to be a nervy one. I think the first goal, I always say this, but I think the first goal in this one in particular is going to be really important. But I'm going in there with positive thoughts. I may be sitting here with my tail between my legs after the next game, but I really don't think I am. I can see we're getting into the semi-final.
Do you know what? I think Miley will get another goal. He's got that behind him now, and I think he'll be going for it more. He knows he can do it, and I think he'll get another one.
Well, I hope you're right. Well, you heard it here first. Now, as always, if you've getting to the end of the video, thank you so much. We really do appreciate it. Why not give her a little thumbs up, give her a like, leave a comment down there, let me know what your score is and your scorers as well. There will still be a prize. We still haven't getting one. Subscribe to the channel, and why not give it a bit of a share as well to any like-minded supporters. We really do appreciate it. Gets the video out to people, and we love doing this and fetching you the content. So, as always, we'll see you the next time. But until then, come on.
Away.